कई लोग ऐसे हैं जो इनको हिंदी नहीं आता है, तो थोड़े दिन के लिए ऐसे ही चलने दीजिए, फिर आखिर में संस्कृति आने वाला है, ना हिंदी ना। Mr. Sankhe, office bearers of the VHS Maharashtra, office bearers of our national VHS, and delegates present here today in full strength. First of all, I want to congratulate the leadership of Sankhe, his associates in ISKCON, and his teammates. They have arranged this conference all by themselves. I was in America. I didn't even have any chance to help you. But you didn't ask for any help, so that's why I went away to America. And I've come here just like you have come. I have also come, and the arrangements have been perfect. The objective for which we made the VHS about 3 years ago, less than 3 years ago, it will be 3 years in September, is for this kind of Swayamsevaks, people standing on their own feet and not relying on money from the center or some big industrialists, and taking up causes to educate the people. Because whether it is the cow, as I will explain today, or it is Uniform Civil Code, or it is nationalism, all these now have to be taught to our people as to why it is desirable. Because the British Macaulay system made us feel inferior. Many years ago, must be about 30 years ago, I was with somebody in a conference, international conference in America, and an American asked me, "What's your religion?" I said, "Hindu." Then he asked my friend, and he said, "I am a Hindu, but I'm not communal." Now, this defensiveness, that to say I am a Hindu itself, you felt a little hesitant that you might be mistaken for a communal person. So that inferiority complex, that is what we want to overcome with the help of knowledge. And slowly this is beginning to happen. I've always said, it doesn't matter if you are in 130 or 228 million, 1.28 billion people, or that you are very strong, you got rockets which can put in 140 satellites in one blow, it can take off and go towards the Mars. All this, these are all only useful if your mind is liberated. And liberation of the mind means looking at your heritage with confidence. We want to modernize, but we don't want to westernize. We will learn from the West, but we will not feel inferior while learning from the West. We have suffered tremendously for the last 1,000 years. We are the world's most developed country in every dimension of human endeavor, and slowly declined due to foreign invasions, due to looting, occupation, colonialism. And we should have by now recovered, but because the last 70 years we continued the same books, the same system, the same thinking, and that is why we have not become a truly independent mind, although our brilliance is now recognized all over the world. We produce the best software, but we can't produce any single design. We can't produce an equivalent of a Microsoft. We do what is called as blue-collar work for the Western countries. So this originality, which was the hallmark of the Hindu, that has to be restored. And we have to take all our past concepts and see whether it is relevant for the modern day world. We thought, you will not remember, but I remember when I was in school, people used to laugh at yoga and call this contortion. But today yoga is all over the world, and even the United Nations, thanks to Narendra Modi's efforts, has been declared as the International Yoga Day for June 21st. So they have accepted yoga. Now they have accepted Sanskrit. The NASA has made learning for degree course in artificial intelligence, they have made Sanskrit compulsory. The reason they gave is that Sanskrit, as structured grammatically, and the script Devanagari is the most computer-friendly language in the world, and future knowledge in computers will be stored in Sanskrit and not in any other language. And this you can see in Google. If you just go to Google and write in the search engine NASA and Sanskrit, you will get it. I was in London recently and I was told in their public school, the most well-known public school in London called St. John's School, they have made for children from the ages of 6 to 12 compulsory to learn Sanskrit. And I was surprised. And I asked somebody who knew about the school, how did this happen? They said that the principal was of the view, and it's a Catholic Christian school. The principal was convinced that if young people recite Sanskrit shlokas from the age of 6 to 12, their brain development will be more rapid than if they do not do so. So that's how we have now today taken up this issue of the cow. And naturally we hear all kinds of arguments. Somebody told me the other day, I have a right to eat whatever I want. Who are you to tell me? I said, I don't tell you. The Constitution is telling you. Article 48 of the Constitution says that the state shall ban the slaughter of cows. It's there in black and white in Article 48. What about my fundamental right? There is no such thing as absolute fundamental right. All fundamental rights are subject to reasonable restrictions of various kinds, which the courts decide. And what is reasonable is often the courts refer to the directive principles. Now, triple talaq, it is a fundamental right of Islamic religion. Well, sorry, it conflicts with one of the restrictions in Article 25, which gives you the fundamental right to worship. And that right is subject to the restriction of morality, public order, and public health. And it is certainly immoral to say that a man can divorce his wife by saying triple talaq or talaq 3 times. So therefore, but the woman cannot. So there is equality before law is Article 14. So therefore it is not, there are men and women in Islam in this matter are not equal before the law. We ourselves have abolished so many things which came in our tradition due to certain circumstances, like sati, like untouchability. Untouchability, you got an explicit article in the Constitution that it is abolished. So therefore, the right to eat, the right to engage in meat trade, all are subject to fundamental, all fundamental rights are subject to restrictions. And it is there in the Constitution. Fundamental right to trade in beef is Article 19 bracket 1 bracket G. If you go to the Constitution, you see that. It's a fundamental right to trade in whatever way you want. But Article 19 bracket 2 says, subject to reasonable restrictions. And that means because Article 48 of the Constitution says that the state shall ban the slaughter of cows and other milch cattle, and therefore you cannot trade in beef. That is the law that emerges from the Constitution. So people are ignorant of the Constitution and they talk loosely about my fundamental right to do this and fundamental right. Then I will say it's my fundamental right to stop you from eating beef also. You have given me this present. Once upon a time, this was the election symbol of the Congress party. But that is when Congress party was a Swadeshi party. Today it is Italian Congress party. And so if you touch that cow, then from Assam the rhinoceros will take care of you. This making fun of our traditions has become a habit. One of the things they say is, why can't I eat the cow? Because it's a precious animal. I went to China some years ago. When the first time I went, I found I could not get a glass of milk in China. They gave me soya milk. So I asked my host, who was a Buddhist, how come you're having soya milk and not, cow's milk? So he said, unlike you, we did not ban the slaughter of cows. So I said, what does that make difference does it make? He said, every time in the last 1,000 years there was a famine, the easiest thing to eat was the cow, because it was a very mild animal, easy to catch, not much resistance, and we finished off the entire stock of cows in our country. We should have followed India and banned the cow slaughter as a tradition, then we would have had the cow. Today, Bos indicus breed which is the Indian cow, that cow is now increasingly in demand in many countries, New Zealand, Australia, United States. They call it Brahmin herd for some reason. But it is called by that name in the United States. They accept that the milk of this cow is superior to any other variety of cow. And people say, no, see, if you ban the slaughter of cows, then the export industry will collapse. Well, as soon as we came to power, a Jain Muni in Gujarat told me, you have to stop this. There's a tremendous vested interest, a lot of money in it. Then I found out the real reason why these cow meat was being exported was because of the subsidies, 13 different types of subsidies given by the Congress government to exporters of beef. And at my intervention, then the support of the government, we abolished those subsidies. And since last year, now there's hardly any export of cow meat. Now at most for eating in Bangladesh, they go across the land. That is why we brought this change in the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act. Government of India did not bring it. The Supreme Court was approached by an animal NGO and the Animal Welfare Board in a PIL to say that the slaughterhouses have no regulation, nothing, and the animals are slaughtered cruelly. So on that basis, the Supreme Court directed the government of India to see what they can do in the change in law to see this doesn't happen. So our Environment Ministry studied the Act and found that if the rules are changed, then it can be made much more easy to regulate, which is that one of the rule, I think 32, which said that agricultural markets set up with government support was being misused by illegally bringing cows and using it for slaughter, selling it for slaughter. Now, in the agricultural market, we, on the advice of asking all state governments, including Congress governments, all NGOs, that shall we change this in order to keep the agricultural markets not dominated or dislodged by these black marketeers coming in and taking away the cows for slaughter, by requiring that every farmer or any person selling a cow or buying a cow will give a certificate that it will be used only for agricultural purposes. That is, no ban on cow slaughter. We only said, the government only said, that the agricultural market will be used only for agricultural purposes. What we were finding is that slowly all agricultural markets were being shifted to the Rajasthan border, to the Bengal border, this kind of thing, because that was the best way that you quietly bring in it from the name of doing for agriculture, so that nobody will intercept you and say you are taking it for slaughter. And there you make the trade and take it across the border without difficulty. So this was something the Supreme Court asked us to do. After we made the amendment in the law change, we went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court accepted it. And yet, what a campaign. Ban on cow slaughter, intolerance, this, that, all that stuff. And people making cooking of cow meat, etc. All this without recognizing that this is not what we brought. We brought it because the Supreme Court told us to change the law. But we will bring a law very soon, all India. And to force the government to do slowly, I have introduced a private members bill in the Rajya Sabha, where I have said that in keeping with our tradition, if anyone slaughters a cow, he shall be subject to death penalty. In 1857, the Hindu Rajas, starting with Mangal Pandey in Meerut, revolted against the British. Temporarily, we were able to take Delhi and installed a Muslim successor of the Mughal, Bahadur Shah Zafar, made him king. He made a Hindu prime minister. And the first farman issued by Bahadur Shah as the new emperor of India, liberated India, was that there shall be a ban on cow slaughter with the death penalty. All over India, this has been the tradition. Because it's such a, first of all, it is connected with our tradition. Call it Kamadhenu. One of your delegates here, Prema Raghavan, sent me a newspaper clipping which says that Brahma had created a very beautiful girl called Ahilya. And she was to be married. So Brahma called for all the people who wanted suitors, and to choose amongst from them, it was decided that all of them will go around the world, and the first one who comes back will be able to marry her. But Narad Muni, he always creates problems. So he had found that Rishi Gautama was still unmarried, and yet he was doing japa and yagya and so on. So he needed a wife. So he persuaded him that before all of them return, you marry her. But Gautama said that will be doing sin, because it has already been decided, they have already left, and will be cheating. I can't do that. So Narad said, no, you marry, but after in the marriage ceremony, you make a round of a cow, then you will be forgiven for all your sins. And that was the way in which Gautama was able to marry Ahilya. So the cow was considered as a purifier in our tradition. And it is there in great length in Mahabharata, in the Anusasan Parva section of the Mahabharata. You can read about the importance of cow, the multidimensional effect of the cow. Today, cow and the bull together provide you for agriculture. They provide you milk. We have 200 million cows. What is the average yield of a cow? 200 liters. One Israeli cow produces 10,000 liters on the average per year. Now, if our 200 million cows produce 10,000 liters per year, I will have to come to Bombay Stock Exchange swimming in milk. That much milk there will be in the country. But what is the price even today of our milk? 1/6 that of Europe. Why don't we export milk? Of course, you will have to pasteurize it, you will have to put in a bottle, and you will have to make sure that there are no germs and send it, satisfy all those regulations. But that is easy to do. We can become a milk exporter because you have so many millions of cows. Make them healthy, give them good food, good nourishment, they will produce you the milk. And so therefore, those who say the only way to earn is by cutting the cow, I say you can also win. You can make money by exporting milk. And part of that you put aside in fixed deposit, so that when the cow stops giving you milk, then you build a Goshala for it and look after it out of the fixed deposit, because you have made so much money. So therefore, all these arguments are baseless arguments. There are always alternatives. If you want to have to do something, you can't say that we should encourage prostitution in India because it will attract tourist trade from abroad. It will attract tourist trade, but we don't want that way. There are some moralities involved. Because the cow is a fundamental part of our culture, we should be proud to say, yes, we believe in the cow, not be defensive. No, I'm not against it, but on the other hand, I'm also for it, that kind of thing. Don't be hesitant. That is the meaning of Virat. When I say Virat Hindustan, why I don't say Virat Hindu? Because I want to keep one door open for all those non-Hindus who are willing to accept what is a scientific fact, namely that their ancestors are Hindus. So Hindustan is a land of Hindus plus all those others who are willing to accept that their ancestors were Hindus. If a first generation foreigner comes and settles here, he becomes a citizen. And that means he is an Indian, he is a Bharatiya. Bharatiya is a republican concept. Hindustani or Hindu is an asmita, that is an identity. And every country has this. In America, a very famous Harvard professor called Sam Huntington, whom I knew when I taught there in those years when he was teaching, he said that the identity of an American is white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, Christian speaking English. So I asked him, what about the Jews? What about the Chinese? What about the Indians? What about the black Africans? He said, yes, they are American citizens, but the identity of America shall remain white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, Christian, English-speaking people. Britain openly says, we are a Christian nation. There are so many Muslims there, there are so many Hindus there, Jews there, so many others. But they say that is true. They are our citizens. But at the same time, the identity of this country is this. So the identity, and for us, you see, this is such a long-standing country. I mean, this civilization, you go to UNESCO website, you will find they have a list of civilizations that have come and gone in this world. 46 civilizations they have tabulated. 45 have disappeared. The only continuing civilization is the Hindu civilization. Of course, others have contributed. Like Ganga is flowing, lots of rivers are joining, but the name will remain Ganga and it will not change. So the same way, the mainstream is that. So therefore, I had used the word Hindustan, which is not objected to by others, which means that you identify with the origins of this country, the continuing civilization of this country. And that means you have to accept. Let me tell you another fact. 1947, the British introduced a bill in their parliament called the Indian Independence Act. In June, they debated till the middle of July. And read the debate. Repeatedly it is said that we have introduced this bill because Hindus and Muslims cannot live together. So we foresee two countries, one Muslim governed, other Hindu governed. Immediately the person who was handling our constitution making in the Constituent Assembly, Dr. Ambedkar, he was the drafting committee chairman, and he said, let us have exchange of population. Our country all said no. Those Muslims who do not want to go to Pakistan can stay in India. It is our choice. What the British created was that it will be a Hindu India and there will be a Muslim Pakistan. So if you are going to say that I am not going to Pakistan even though I am a Muslim, then you saying that your identity your connections are also with the Hindus. And that's all we're asking. They say, the Muslims say, in fact, Owaisi and I had a debate. We have had many debates. He said, I go by the Constitution. I said, you cannot go by the Constitution. He said, why? I said, your Constitution has uniform civil code. You don't go by that. Constitution says Hindi shall be the link language of India, but its vocabulary will be drawn from Sanskrit. Article 351, please read it. So therefore, I am only saying this to you, that this country's tradition, we have venerated cow from centuries without a break. Even during the Islamic rule, we fought for it. So therefore, we have to follow those traditions, but not blindly. Because we also know, scientifically, this milk is good for us. We also know that its cow dung is being used for agricultural manure. We also know that its urine has medicinal properties. So people say, Chichi, how can you say that? So I gave them a list of 13 American drugs, which are very powerful drugs for diseases, including for cancer. And I said, please go and check the ingredients. They have urine in the ingredients. And where does that urine come from? Urinals and prisons, where from the prisoners. And they use urine in the medicines in the United States. Or you may go and see in Google. After reading it, you may stop using those medicines if you like, if you don't feel comfortable. But it's all right to use medicines which have American urine, but you don't want to have anything to do with your own cow urine. I first came to know this when Morarji Desai used to drink his own urine. And when he went to America, they asked him. So he produced this list of drugs. And he said, it's all right for you to take urine of somebody else, but not your own. So, therefore, I'm saying to you, it's not necessary, it's not mandatory you have to drink cow's urine. But it has properties, it has been established. And perhaps as somebody, I think Sanjay showed a bottle with the sanitized bottle. Sunil, yeah. He showed a sanitized bottle. Maybe soon, one of these days, you might have an ice cream made out of cow urine. I don't know. But I'm saying the mere fact that its milk is of special quality, it's enough for us to protect it. And protect we must. It's got nothing to do with religion. 5 Supreme Court judgments have said that eating beef is not an essential part of Islam. Right from 1958 up to 2005, 5 judgments. And the Supreme Court has also said that the fundamental right to preach religion is only on the essential parts of that religion. Even a mosque has been held by the Supreme Court in the Ram Janmabhoomi dispute as not an essential part of Islam. And incidentally, the Muslim parties in the Ram temple matter, they are not saying that these Hindus demolished our masjid and therefore we want it back. The Hindu case is that there was a temple before, they demolished and built a masjid, so we want our temple back. Well, Muslims are not saying that. Why they are not saying that? Because in Islam, masjid is only to facilitate your reading namaz. And namaz can be read anywhere. It can be read here. It can be read on the road. The other day I saw a picture from New York where a fellow was doing namaz sitting on the back of his taxi, Some of you might have seen it. So you can read namaz anywhere. It's not very necessary that you should read it in that particular spot where Hindus think that Ram was born. In fact, if they want to build a masjid, you can build it across the Saryu River. I am giving this as an illustration where half-baked knowledge is now ruling our debate. There is nothing in the law which will prevent us from legislating that you can't eat the cow, full stop. There is nothing whatsoever. And as someone said during the course of our meeting, tomorrow if I go and publicly hold a festival for eating dogs in England, what do you think will happen to me? If you don't believe it, go and try it and see what happens to you. But make sure the ticket you buy is only one way because you're not coming back. Every country has a tradition and you accommodate that tradition. Yes, if it is something which is violative of your basic beliefs which is embodied in your constitution, we will not agree. Saying, for instance, when the Sabrimala priest said, women on 5 days a month, we will not allow them to come. So we said, who are you? The whole Hindu community unitedly said this is nonsense. And ultimately they had to back down and agree to the fact that men and women can both access the sanctum sanctorum at any time. Either both are denied or both are allowed. Equality before the law. So, same thing with sati. We never hesitated. In fact, the British didn't want to ban sati. It was Raja Rammohn Roy and others who led the movement for banning of sati. And sati is not an ancient tradition of ours. It only emerged after the Islamic invasions. So, we have fought against these traditions. We have brought a Hindu Code Bill in 1953 to make sure that women have equal rights in inheritance and so on. So all this put together, I would say that we have to safeguard the cow for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons given is protein. Now it is scientifically proved that it takes more land and more water and more grain to produce 1 kg of protein from cow meat than if you get it from pulses or plants or any other non-meat sources. So, in fact, it is now shown that the gases that these animals in fear let out are damaging to your environment. Now it is shown that red meat produces cancer. There was a time when it was a fashion to drink cigarettes, smoke cigarettes. Today it's no more fashion. Nobody smokes cigarettes. No aeroplane flights allows smoking of cigarettes. Because science has told you that is cancer. And I'm telling you that these red meats, now it's only a matter of time. In America, most people are getting off the red meat industry. So what should we do? Well, certainly we're going to have a law. And we still got 2 years to go. And after that, 5 years more. So, a law banning cow slaughter, national law which is permitted in the Constitution and the concurrent list, can be enacted. And every state has to obey. Now, in Arunachal, I don't know what you call as a cow there. That is some Nilgai or some special breed in Arunachal. That's not a cow. That's not Bos indicus anyway. So people say in Arunachal, how can you? Well, if they were eating our Bos indicus, naturally we will not allow it. Everybody has to comply. And they will comply. So, therefore, we'll have a law. What do you do about the poor farmer who can't keep a cow After some time, well, we have to build shelters for it. Where is the money for it? What money? In 1962, when the Chinese attacked India, there was no money. And there was an appeal made, please contribute to the Defense Fund of India. You know, women, rural women, took off their gold bangles, their necklaces, and put it in the boxes for collection. That is the mood of this country. Tomorrow you say, on your petrol, you will pay 1 rupee extra for gaushalas. The country will be flooded with money. These are excuses. But then, yes, cow protection says. And that will be applied to all, Hindus and Muslims. No. Because equality before the law requires that we tax everybody equally. So, then we must elevate the status of these Gaurakshaks and give them a certificate so that any old hoodlum doesn't intercept people and kill them on the road. All those violent incidents which the TV has publicized, we have had it investigated. They were not people of any known organization. They were ruffians, they were criminals, and they were making use of it. In one case, when there was a demonstration where the farmers' trucks were emptied of bananas and thrown, we later found out that the farmers had been paid for all the bananas by the Congress party, and then hoodlums were asked to go and throw it away to just create this atmosphere. But anyway, these things don't make any difference to us. But I think these Gaurakshaks are performing a great service, and there should be, I think, a new cadre created, Gaurakshaks of Hindustan, you see. You know that you would be surprised to know, in 1953, at the urgings of Dr. Rajendra Prasad, it was decided to bring a bill in Parliament to ban cow slaughter, totally, national bill. And it received tremendous support. But when it came in Parliament, Jawaharlal Nehru announced that he would resign as Prime Minister if this bill is passed. I think we should have accepted his resignation then. But the party said no, and that bill was dropped. What is this mindset? This mindset is what I call is the European mindset. The European mindset which craves for recognition from the West. Of course, Jawaharlal Nehru got tremendous press that he fought obscurantism, he did this, he did that. And that praise is what he craved for. We need a new Indian who only values the opinion of other Indians and not of any foreigner. New York Times says there's intolerance in India. And people are discussing it. I said, who the hell is New York Times? When they're in their own country, Trump doesn't care for New York Times. Why should we care for it? So this cow represents our mental liberation. Our commitment to safeguard the cow has, of course, all these arguments. But in the bottom, the most important argument is that it is a representation of the liberation of the Indian mind from foreign influence which came under colonialism. It's a decolonization of our mind that it represents, and it is scientifically sustainable, and therefore we shall fight for it to see that this happens, and this country has Now cows walking freely and happily everywhere. We make arrangements. These are not difficult to do, and we therefore take it as part of the extension, the completion of the freedom movement that we launched against the British. Thank you very much.
But have they given chits?
Vande Mataram Sujalan Sufalan Malayaj Shitalan Sasya Shamalan Mataram Vande Mataram Shubhra Jyotsna Pulakitayamini Pulya Kusumita Drumadala Shobhini Suhasini Sumadhura Bhashini Sukhadam Varadam Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram Bharat Mata Ki